Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Listen to the show anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And, of course, if you're watching this, you've already found the ThunderCast YouTube channel. Do me a favor while you're there. Click subscribe and share the link with your friends so you never miss a episode of the ThunderCast, any special presentations we put out, any one-off shows, and you help us grow the listener base. We're here. Russ and I have decided to come together because yesterday, as we record today, Jed and I did 5 things and around the herd. And the one thing we did not talk about, which was a very, very big topic that you cannot not talk about, is the release of the 2026 Marshall football schedule. So Russ and I carved out a little time, and we want to run down the schedule and talk about what we see in it, what we like about it, and what we don't like about it. So, dude, good to be back with you. It seems like it's been like freaking forever since we've done an episode together. So, glad to be back, man.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to record. I hadn't done this in a while. I do want to mention too, even though it's gone down a little bit, you started posting some really good content over on our Facebook. So anyone watching or listening, make sure that you're following along over there too. A lot of interaction has picked up over there since we started doing that.
Yeah, I should mention that. I've peeled off here the past couple of weeks. I just got out of the groove. I need to find some more plays that I want to post, but the ThunderCast Facebook page became the new home of ThunderCast throwbacks in Reels and on Instagram as well. We're trying to grow both of those social media channels, and man, people love old plays. So that became the new home of ThunderCast throwbacks. And I'll say this now, if you've got a favorite play that you would like me to try to find, now come on, like, be real. I don't have access to everything. I'm not Steve Cotton. I don't have the archives, right? But if there's a play that you remember that you like, throw it down in the comments of this episode, and I'll see if I can search it out. There's a lot of plays out there available, but do me a favor, like, hey, it was this game during this year, help me find it, and I'll do my best to find it, and we'll post that as a ThunderCast throwback.
A lot of people doing the cards and memorabilia stuff too.
Yeah.
They were posting their own stuff. So, great ideas that you had there, and it came with a groundswell of interaction from our fans, and that's basically why we have the social media, is to interact with people, and we love interacting with Marshall fans. So if you've got cool memorabilia, cards specifically, get in on that stuff.
Yeah, I picked up a few new items, so that'll give me some new things to showcase. What I've been doing is trying to put together I'm not a huge card collector. I'm not. But what I've tried to do is, if a Marshall player from any sport has a card, I'm trying to get one of those cards. Some of them are stupid cheap, and some players have thousands. Like Moss has thousands of cards. But I have a little hierarchy of preferences that I like to find if I can find those. So that's what I'm trying to do, is complete the personal collection of every Marshall player ever that has a card. I'd like to find one and put it in the collection. So that's how the Marshall player of the day, or the card of the day, came to be. Letting people pick who they wanted to showcase. And if they could stump me and I didn't have that player, then I'd go look for it and try to find one. But I need to get back into that too. I got a few things coming in the mail, so that'll be a great way to kick that right back off again. But what do you say we get a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC so that we can start talking about this 2026 Marshall football schedule? What do you say?
And since this is a football-centric episode, I'm going to use their football ad.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Well, Russ, the schedule dropped a couple weeks ago now, so it's out there. Everybody's consumed it. Everybody's digested it. They've got their feelings towards it. We knew a lot of the games that were going to appear, right? Because you can flip-flop most of the conference schedule, so you know who's going to be on your slate. You just don't know when, you don't know where on the schedule it's going to fall. A couple of crossover games are always a mystery, and we already knew the out of conference. So we could piece together most of the schedule. It's just how would it be ordered? So I'll tell you what, you run down the schedule if you have it in front of you. You rip it off to everybody so that they know what the date, if it's home or away, that type of thing. And then we'll talk about some of the particulars.
Okay, so we're going to start with the out of conference. Marshall has 4 out of conference and then hit their conference with 8 games in a row. Not everyone in the Sun Belt has that, but Marshall does. So let's hit that first. September the 5th, it's at Penn State. You're going up to Happy Valley. If you are, you better start looking now. Don't get that sticker shock on a hotel because they're pretty bad. It's obscene. But then we come home the very next Saturday, September the 12th. Middle Tennessee comes up here. The next Saturday, September 19th, we are returning, going out to Missouri State. They came here for their first ever matchup with us. Now we're returning the favor and going out there. And that's in Springfield, Missouri. And then 9/26 to finish up our out of conference happens to be homecoming, and it's Gardner Webb that we're bringing in. So again, at Penn State, Middle Tennessee at home, at Missouri State, Gardner Webb at home for homecoming. That's our out of conference. Here's the conference schedule, which was what was holding all of this up. Early on, we've got James Madison, the very first conference game. That's Saturday, October the 3rd at Harrisonburg. And then the next Saturday, Coastal Carolina comes here for a home game. And then we have 10 days off, and we'll play on a Tuesday, a home game against South Alabama. Then we have 11 days off, and it's back to a Saturday at ODU. And then November the 7th, I better tell you those dates. October the 20th was the Tuesday, and then October the 31st was the Saturday against ODU. At Georgia Southern on November the 7th, the 75 game is going to actually be on Saturday, November the 14th, and App State comes here. And then we have another home game the next Saturday, November 21st, Georgia State, and then we finish the day after Black Friday on the road at ULM, November 28th. So that's our conference slate.
So initial reactions. I want to start at the top and just work my way down the schedule, right? Because I don't want to be all over the place. But first, like wholesale, you've got 11 Saturday games and 1 Tuesday, and I think we can all agree a Tuesday game is gross. But we'll dive into that when we get into October.
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on that one. Go ahead.
I bet you do. I'm not going to talk much about Penn State. I just think it's a cool opportunity. They're going to be breaking in a new head coach as well, so it's a good opportunity to go up there and maybe, finger quotes, shock the world, like we did in South Bend a few years ago. I mean, there's no time like breaking in a new coach to try to steal one on the road, a week 1 game. So it's a great opportunity for Marshall against a prime opponent. Then we come back against Middle Tennessee State. We signed this home and home series several years back. It didn't move the needle for many of us. We were able to get a win last year up in Murfreesboro after delays like crazy and crazy scoring and all this kind of – it was a weird game. But now we got to host Middle Tennessee. Of course, that'll be the home opener, which is always well attended. That's when we throw the big tailgate that we've done for the past several years. And I'll be making the trip in for that game, as always, as I do for the home opener. So outside of that opponent, not too excited, not angry about it, but Middle's a ho-hum team. That's all to me. I'm gonna go through Missouri State, and then I'll get your reaction for those first 3 games because homecoming's something different. Missouri State, I think, is one you got to go on the road and you got to get a revenge. You let one slip away. That was a home game that you let slip away last year, and I think that was a learning experience for the coaching staff at that point in the season, and it was a letdown for fans for sure. But I was at that game, and I was standing over with the Missouri State fans in their section as the clock kind of went to 0. And even though it sucked as a Herd fan, man, they were exuberant. I mean, they just won their first FBS game. That was awesome. So I congratulated some fans and stuff, and then just kind of licked my wounds and left. So that's when you got to get back. So let's talk about those first 3 games. What do you like? What do you not like about those?
I like having Penn State on there. That is a bucket list stadium event that a lot of fans will want to go to. Middle Tennessee, it doesn't move the needle for me, but I don't care who is in that slot. I'm going to like that game. It's the home opener. Also, too, I went and talked to a bunch of their tailgaters last year when I was down there, and I have already invited them up, and a lot of them, I had to revisit with them. I got their Twitter handles, but a lot of them were really looking forward to coming up here, and they may join in, bring some of their gear, and just make that tailgate even bigger. They had a really good catfish fry down there and some wings on a smoker and all kinds of good stuff. So we'll see what we can do with that. Missouri State, I'm looking forward to that because I want to go to that game. Who might as well be my brother is about 3 hours from there. And the plan right now is for us to take our family, him to take his family, and us get down there and have a weekend together, something that we rarely get to do. And it's just another excuse to go on a road trip to a place I've never been.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. Out of those first 3, you got 2 road games that I hope to attend. The plan is right now to attend all 3 of those games, but we'll see.
Well, so I remember last year you started the series Russ Eats the Sun Belt, right? So does this also mean that Russ is going to eat Happy Valley and Russ is going to eat Springfield too?
No, so that was only about, Twitter and having fun on Twitter and stuff like that and going to place. And I wanted that to be amongst our conference foes and stuff like that. But I am going to be there's going to be a lot of ThunderCast mobile at every away game, so it'll be focused on their tailgating, but also our fans that are traveling. I want to speak to fans of Marshall that are at these games and their experience going to these games, where they came from, what they're doing while they're down there, that sort of thing.
So let's move in and talk about homecoming now, because this is weird for me personally, both in date and opponent. And I talked about this when the schedule was released. I had some people respond to those comments of mine. Now, be mindful that I'm not disparaging Gardner Webb. I'm not disparaging anything really. It just seems odd. Like a Saturday home or a September homecoming is a little weird to me, because historically it was like the first home game in October. If the first home game wasn't like the last week of October. So and also it's always generally against a conference opponent, not necessarily an FCS out of conference opponent, So those two things made it weird for me. And of course, most replies to that were, well, you kind of want to schedule a game you're supposed to win for homecoming. It's like, I get that, but I don't know. Like, the FCS opponent for homecoming is odd to me. That's all. I would have much rather seen that at against Coastal Carolina. That's all.
And we can go back through the history of, since we started school in 97 and went up to, away from what is now FCS into what is now FBS. And we could go through and see who that was, what the dates were, and things like that. The one thing that I'll tell you is I have seen others take umbrage in our conference when we had them listed for homecoming, and I had to explain to them it's not about the opponent, it's about the date. And that made sense to them. So I guess other people have been taking their FCS opponent and saying, okay, that's homecoming or whatever. It's not traditionally done here, the best that my memory shows. It's like the majority, I would say, are more about conference things. But it is in October. And the only home game we have in October that's not that yucky, despicable Tuesday night game is Coastal Carolina. I would have liked to have seen that flip-flop, that you would have had that be homecoming. I don't know why. I'm sure there's a good reason that we did not do October the 10th. Maybe something else is going on. I don't know, but it's against Gardner Webb. It's in September. It is what it is. People are going to come in. I just hope that, a lot of people come in for that first home game, especially friends of ours and things like that. I just hope that 2 weeks later is not too soon for them to prevent them from coming back, because if they choose between the two, I think they're going to come in for that first game.
Exactly. Because, competitively speaking, well, not competitively, but like from a needle moving standpoint, Gardner Webb and Middle Tennessee move it about the same for you if you're a Herd fan, right?
Yeah.
But you come in for the home opener, which is always well attended. You're going to get a kick-ass tailgate. You're going to have a great time. Like, it is, that weekend has turned into something really awesome for our friend group and for Herd fans that come by and say what's up.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the psychology behind an early October homecoming is, hey, we give them roughly a month to come back to another game. That's a little bit of a gap. It might be hard to do 2 weeks later. And that's a good point that I really didn't even think about in considering, this late September date. But that's a great point.
I really wish they would have not flip-flop the games, just flip-flop the theme that homecoming's on October the 10th against Coastal. But it is what it is. We don't get to choose. Otherwise, we would have a lot different. You and I, we would have a lot different than what historically we've had. But it is what it is.
Not only do we not get to choose, I'm not mad at it. I just would have preferred to see it be in early October. I think the weather is like, you're going to get great weather in late September, but you also start to get that crisp smelling air, that football, West Virginia weather that you kind of think of when you think of Herd football and homecoming.
People driving in and getting the reds and the yellows and the oranges and all that and the purples from the trees. I think homecoming, that's the number one thing I think of, is when you're seeing the hills and the mountains around here and the fall foliage and everything. It just screams homecoming, but it doesn't scream that in September for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I dig that. Running down the conference slate, again, we're not going to go game by game and talk about game by game. I will say this. I think it's a travesty to be playing James Madison as the first Sun Belt Conference game. I think that's absolutely egregious on all counts.
Yeah.
This is a late season matchup. If there's an East Division matchup, actually most of these kind of like East Division, like if you look at them and you go, okay, these guys, these 3-ish, maybe 4 teams, any of them can win it. Any of them can win the East. Those should be later games. They all should be. And we, the schedule is trying to satisfy every team, not just one, not just 2. But having that as your SBC opener that's a rough decision. That's a tough look right there.
I think they've fallen and failed in their what should have been over these first 4 or 5 years, finding these rivalries, finding these big time games and everything, and having them be the set thing. You and I talked. I put it on Twitter, and then I shared it with you privately. But I'm of the belief that we should either have a second rivalry week, and or we should not have rivalry week when everyone else across the country is having rivalry week. That last game that's not well attended and things. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, yes.
So I think that they have failed by not having, us and App, us and JMU, and all these others to have more set in. These are late season games.
Well, to your point, and to drive that thought home even further about how they have this conference, when we say they, we're talking about the decision makers that are making these schedules, they, and how poor of a job they have done exploiting, creating even a rivalry week. Dude, they abandoned it completely this year. Completely. Yeah. I went before we came on and I was looking at other teams' schedules in the conference, and I was like, all right, well, did they put App State and Georgia Southern on rivalry week? No. Did they?
No.
Who's Southern Miss playing? Because La Tech's in the scene now. Are they play? No, they're not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? So the Sun Belt has just decided, we're not going to do rivalry week this year. Screw it, man. People like it too much. We shouldn't do that.
So one of the things that I have heard, and it looks like it plays out here, is we had a rotation going, and if you took Texas State out and put La Tech in, that would have kept the rotation for everybody. It would have been, okay, well, they came here, now next time it's time for us to go there. They didn't do that. And we should have been at Arkansas State this year. And I think it was Arkansas State and Troy would have been the two that we would have played for the cross division. And they didn't. They just totally reset everything. And now this seems to be like year one.
Mhm.
If this is year one of the schedule, I don't want to see years 2 through 8 because nothing about this makes sense. Why are we playing a cross division ULM for the last game of the year? But if that's going to be a low attended game and everything, I'm fine with that. It just seems like that doesn't seem like in the preseason, like there's going to be a lot on the line for us playing them.
Seems
and
like
them
an
playing us.
afterthought, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you flip flop those, and ULM was who we went to first on October the 3rd, and it's cross division, I'm fine with doing your cross division early. And doing your late, that makes sense to me. And we're not. We're getting South Alabama right in the middle, and it's a Tuesday game. And for whatever reason, they like those cross division to be the October Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games or whatever. But like if they flip flop James Madison and ULM, all of a sudden you've got App at home for the 75 game, and then you're playing your final game at JMU. All of a sudden, this schedule looks a lot better. Just that one flip flop.
We saw that play out 2 years ago. The final game of the regular season was at James Madison, and we saw what that meant and how that game played out. I cannot wrap my head around the almost outright refusal to establish a rivalry week or two, like you have talked about, to where you can satisfy more than one rival, and you've got multiple storylines that encompass multiple teams throughout the season to keep the whole damn thing interesting. It's just wild that I don't know why would you just not want to do that? I mean, that is a lifeblood of a conference and a lifeblood of fan bases,
Anyone that's watching, listening, I'm going to go repost that and revisit that, share it again, what I had put out last year. But I think that it makes sense, and maybe I'll just read through it and now revisit, tweet it out as a fresh thing. But basically, you have two rivals, is at least everybody in the conference gets them, and I think that you have your primary and your secondary. Some rivalries do not have to be regional, to be a rival, but some of them do. And your secondary may just be like, hey, that's who you're getting because that's close. It's an easy game for travel between the two and things like that. Like for instance, Georgia Southern and Georgia State. That would be the secondary because App and Georgia Southern ought to be the primary.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the basis behind that. So you just start building that and say, okay, who would be on the secondary, who would be on the primary, and you have those be those weeks. Well, then your schedule fills in very easily after that, And I know that we have the ESPN games midweek. We're getting ready to talk about that, but you should be able to do that sort of thing and not have the rivalry games, primary or secondary, hit those. In my thoughts, it makes it pretty daggone easy. Yeah. Do your cross division early. Do your same division that the games are heads up that makes the most difference in the standings. Have those be later. And all of a sudden, this seems like a very easy schedule. I don't know why we're making it this hard. And I have I'll wait, and when we talk about the Tuesday game, I'll
Mhm.
talk about some other team schedules. But go ahead
Yeah.
with your
So we're
thoughts.
getting there. And that's it. I'm moving on to Coastal Carolina. I mean, it's just another home game, right? And then you've
Yeah.
got Marshall's got no true bye weeks really because
Mhm.
we don't have all Saturday games. We've got that Tuesday game weaseled in there. So you play Coastal, then you get 10 days and you play on a freaking Tuesday night at home against South Alabama. And then you get 11 days and you're away at Old Dominion. So you don't have a true bye week, but you essentially are getting 2 bye weeks out
Right.
of it, and they fall in week 7 and week 9. So what a great place for those to fall right dead in the center before you
Mhm.
start to go through the East Division gauntlet. I mean, you've already played Coastal and you've already played James Madison, but you're going to have to get through ODU, Georgia Southern, App State, and Georgia State. Bam, 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 bam. Right. So it's a great time to heal up and then get ready for the home stretch in November. Now let's stop and talk about that gross ass Tuesday game. What in the hell? How did not only the Sun Belt end up with a Tuesday game, but unluckily it's Marshall that gets the Tuesday game, and even more unluckily it's at home instead of being on the road. Those are attendance killers. I will never be okay with Tuesday night games, Wednesday night games. Thursday's the absolute earliest. Even those are tough to get to because you still got work and school the next day.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts. I said at least it's a home game. That does give up one of your home Saturdays, but I can go to this. And if it were flip flopped, it would be extremely hard for me to go to South Alabama. We travel really well. So I hate that we have to give up one of our Saturdays for this, but I would really, really hate for the road trip aspect and everything. I don't even want to watch this on TV. You know, for an away game, watching Coastal last year on Halloween, and it was a midweek game and everything. That was tough for me. I mean, you still got kids' bedtimes, you got their activities in the evenings and stuff like that. It makes it tough. So I initially reacted and said, "Well, at least it's a home game," because that means I could go to it. But you're right, it's going to kill attendance. And I had this conversation last year or whatever. People were saying there's no excuse not to go, just take off early. Well, you think about that. And that was even on a Friday game or a Thursday. I think it was a Thursday game. They're like, call off the next day. I was like, okay, say you're an alum coming from Charlotte. The game's at 7 o'clock. You have to take off Thursday or at least half a day Thursday. Got to get your kids out of school. They can't go to school the next day either.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're taking off work. So just to have that 4-day weekend or whatever, you're burning 2 days that you might not have. Your kids are out of school 2 days that they might not be able to go to. It's hard for fans that are in those kids are in school. You know, you could be in your 20s and your kid is in school. You can be in your 40s or 50s and your kid's in school. It's not about the age of the fan, it's the age of the family, really. And it makes it hard. Well, someone going to a Friday game or someone going to a Thursday, they might be likely to say, well, I'll just do a Thursday,
I'll do a
Friday and have
long
a 4-day
weekend.
week. Yeah. You're not going to have that on a Tuesday.
Nope.
I don't know anybody that's going to say, I'm going to take off Tuesday so I can drive the 6 hours or whatever and get there for the 7:30 game. And then there's no chance that I'll be there for Wednesday, back at work and everything. So I'm going to take Tuesday and Wednesday off. So I have to go to work Monday, Thursday, and Friday. You would have to find someone that does not live in the area that just happens to have off Tuesdays and Wednesdays for this to fit into their schedule and be better than coming on a Saturday because they always work on a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's not going to be it's going to be the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, I would be shocked if we have 15,000 people there.
Oh, I would absolutely be enthralled if 15,000 people showed up for a Tuesday night game. Enthralled. I think it's going to be, I mean, I'm not trying to be a hater. It's Tuesday, man.
Kids have practice. So, kids have to go to bed. I mean, for us to go to this game, my wife and I, we have 3 kids and they have to go to bed during that game.
Yeah.
So for us to be across town, we're going to have to find a babysitter that will be there, or a family member, which we don't have many in this area, to come over and watch the kids or whatever, because they still got to go to school the next day.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
live right across town.
I'm 6 minutes away,
That's
the
thing.
and it's going to be hell for us to try to get that going, to say, hey, make sure that they get dinner, make sure that they go to bed,
Yeah.
and all this. And I just happen to have 3 kids, but there's going to be people that have to work on a Tuesday evening, or maybe they don't get out of work till 7 and they can't get there, or 8, or they can't get there. It's just going to be tough.
Yeah.
People coming even from Charleston, it's going to be tough for them to get off work and
Yeah.
then come down there, so
I hope this is a one-time thing that, like, all right, well, Marshall's getting the brunt of it this time. They're not going to have the Tuesday game, at least at home, for another 14 years. You know what I mean?
We had Louisiana in 2022 came here, and it was a Wednesday game. And I was like, at that point, I was like, dude, that's horrible. One thing that it does do, it already kind of pushes me toward that, just goes into the tailgate. That game is going to be the Low Country Boil, because I can throw that out. It's a 45-minute timing thing. We can do that. It's going to be really tough to go set up a whole bunch of other stuff,
Yeah. Forget
to
that.
go to that. So I don't know. It just, I hate that. But the positives, you already mentioned it. 10 days between Coastal and that Tuesday game, 11 days between South Alabama and that Old Dominion game.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about, ODU, they have a short turnaround. They've got 6 days that they're having to do. And if you have one of those to where you're traveling either of those games, like if they're not both at home, if one is traveling or both games are traveling, that is brutal, dude, for a short turnaround, 6 days. It's brutal for the fans, but it's brutal for the team as well. And there are some teams having a lot worse than us, is all I'll say.
Sure.
For their Tuesday game, for their Thursday game. James Madison has 3 Thursday games in a row.
See, that's horrible. That's wrong. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. It shouldn't be. Nobody should carry the brunt of the midweek schedule for the conference that much. There's enough teams to go around that you don't play 3 Thursday games, man. That's rough. That's a tough look. That's a really tough look. All right, you've talked about Old Dominion again. The Herd's going to be playing on Halloween for the second year in a row. That'll be a fun game. Old Dominion is like been on an upward trajectory a little bit over the past couple of years. They'll be rebuilding a little bit. We'll see how that lines out and all that kind of stuff. But then you start to look at that gauntlet I was talking about. It'll start after the bye week with Old Dominion on the road. Then you go again on the road to Georgia Southern. We owe them one, obviously, and then back at home for 75 week on the anniversary. And it's always super freaking cool when it happens this way. And I will say this to the credit of the Sun Belt Conference. They got it right this year. They put the Herd at home for 75 week. If ever there was a lock in the conference, that should be the lock. Put Marshall at home. It doesn't mean we're special, but yeah, we are special. That is a home game for us, and it should be forever.
Well, for anyone that didn't listen to the previous episodes where we discussed this, it's not about entitlement or anything. The coaches and players last year, and it might have been their only year that they were here, the players and everything, did not get to go to the fountain ceremony or the various things that happen during 75 week because they had to be on the road. They maybe they went to the fountain ceremony and boom, immediately had to leave and go on the road for that game. But that's what's special about it, is them being able to be at all the ceremonies, memorials, and things like that during the week. It has nothing to do with the game itself. That's the bonus of it for the fans to be able to be here. But fans and players and coaches shouldn't have to travel and miss those special things just to go, somewhere else. It ought to be home, so everyone has that I want to be there for that. Some fans had to choose between going to the memorial stuff at Marshall and going on the road to watch the games.
Yeah, and it should never be that way. It should never ever be that way. The cool wrinkle in that is App State is the 75-week opponent for the second time in the Sun Belt era. So I'm not sure that that's a role that they want to continue to play, or if it's something that they, as a group, are like embrace a little bit and go, "Hey, man, that's kind of like that's a cool thing." That's I also like it's nothing against them. I like App State by and large. I would love to continue playing different opponents on 75 week because that exposes more fans from more universities to that weekend. And I think that if there's one thing just about every fan from another school that I've interacted with has talked about, it's like, man, I'd love to see a game for 75 week when you guys do the memorial stuff. I think that would be great. So I got no problem playing App State. I just think it's a cool thing every time we play a new team for 75 week, but absolutely no qualms. I think it'll be a great game, a great matchup again this year. We owe them one too after what happened in Boone last year.
Yeah.
With a couple of late turnovers and such. Then another home game, back-to-back home games in late November, Georgia State. And then we'll close it out, like you mentioned, on the road against ULM in a crossover game, like whatever. Okay, man. So let me run down again. We got 11 Saturday games, 1 Tuesday game. Buys come on week 7 and week 9. You get back-to-back home games in October and in November. No home games, though, between October 21st and November 13th. That's the big run after the South Alabama Tuesday game all the way up until 75 week, man. That's a big, long run.
Well,
and then,
we'll also take that a step further. All the people that can't come in on that Tuesday game, basically they are out that home game. So it's going to be from October the 10th to November the 14th for them.
Yep, that's true. It'll be well over a month for most Saturday fans to be able to make it to a home game. And then we mentioned this before, but this was my last note on it. The rivalry week just absolutely abandoned by the conference and befuddling to me. It's befuddling to me. You have proposed several good ideas for rivalry week. I have some good ideas rolling around in my head about how they could really make it like a national thing, like become more appealing to the national audience. I mean, we could fix between the two of us. We could fix rivalry week in the Sun Belt. I mean,
I think we could fix all of Sun Belt scheduling. We just sit down.
It's true.
Even if they say, "Hey, these games, these Tuesday games, Wednesday games, Thursday games, those October games, they're set in stone because of ESPN." I still feel like I could work around that and make them more appealing for everybody than what we've got here.
Yeah, we don't tend to look at things through a Marshall lens and just set everything up to benefit the herd. We try to elevate the perception of the conference in doing that because we all have to play these games. So we might as well all enjoy football season.
Yeah. So, I got one more comment. Where that October 31st game, the Old Dominion fell on that, and I knew it was going to be an away game this year. You know, your division stuff is still alternating. You know, it was those cross divisions that got reset with Texas State leaving, La Tech coming in. My wife and I had planned on going back to JMU and back to Old Dominion. She really loved those trips. We have now friends there from our conference mates. And every year, 1031 is a hard game for me because, one, I've got 3 kids that are doing trick or treat.
Sure.
But my middle child, my daughter Evelyn, her birthday's October 29th. And one year I went down for the Coastal game, and the game ended, and I drove straight through. I'm talking like I even stopped off beside the interstate for a bathroom break and drove straight through. So when she woke up, I could be there on her birthday, you know? And it's going to be ridiculously tough for a Saturday 10:31 game for me to go on that Friday, or even hop up early that morning and go. Don't know what the time is, of course, until 12 days before that game. You're probably not going to know. It's pretty much made it to where now we're not going to be able to go to Old Dominion, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Sun Belt Conference didn't put that into their
They don't care about
planning.
that.
They didn't ask me if I had any road trips planned and birthdays that I needed to navigate. So I'm not mad at it. I'm just disappointed that I might not and probably won't be able to go to Old Dominion now.
Yeah. So knee-jerk reaction, looking up and down the whole thing. Scale of 1 to 10 of your personal preference, your personal likability, whatever you want to call it. What's the schedule for Russ Livingood?
Man, it's like a 5 or a 6, and there's a lot of things doing some heavy lifting in here. And, that Tuesday game is bringing it way down.
Way down.
Way down. And not having what should be your most meaningful games being the last two. No disrespect to Georgia State. They're in our division. But disrespect to ULM because they're not in our division. Doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter if it's Troy. Doesn't matter if it's Louisiana, Southern Miss. None of those are going to matter as much on the final week of the year as a true division team that you could play and really do some separation in the standings. So it's probably a 5.5 for me.
Yeah, this is a solid 5 for me, and there are some really good games on this schedule, but there are some really bad games on this schedule too. Yeah, I mean, the opportunity to go to Penn State and sneak out a win is massive, because if that happens, that's going to send shockwaves through the college football world. So anytime you get those opportunities, I mean, we were jacked about the opportunity to play Georgia last year, and that didn't work out the way we had hoped at all. But still, I want the opportunity to play Penn State. That does a little bit of the lifting to the positive side of things. Homecoming against an FCS opponent in early September, 2 weeks after the home opener, logistically, man, that's a pretty big hit. That's why I like to see that in early to mid-October. So that, like you said, you get the full experience of driving back into West Virginia. The foliage is in full bloom or pretty close to full bloom, and you really start to feel at home. It's like, man, I'm back home. This is great. So that kind of sucks too. And James Madison as your opener, that's another punch in the gut. Do not like that whatsoever. Nothing sucks worse than the Tuesday game. Nothing sucks worse than that. But after that, I mean, it's hard to get mad at it. I mean, I don't mind going on the road 2 in a row. It's just logistically, again, how it works out. Your home crowd is going to miss out on a home game for over a month, probably. But the one best thing that they got absolutely freaking right was 75-week at home, and it falls on the anniversary. That does so much of the positivity for the schedule. It's Penn State, and it's 75-week. That is the rightest of right for me. Everything else is either, all right, I can deal with that. I'm not mad at that. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Or it's Tuesday. I hate it. So it's a solid 5 for me, right down the middle.
Yeah. Now, I have to say, too, and I'm sure you're on board with this, I love to speak for you all the time because we're now going on 29 years, of having this hive mind. But I don't care if the schedule is a personal 2 for me. I'm going to go to as many games as I can. And I encourage everyone watching, listening to do the same. Be there. We have always said you go for Marshall, you don't go for the opponent. You say 100%. That all the time, so make sure that you go to these games. It's not that we're saying these are going to be horrible games as in
the matchup.
Why do we have to play them? Yeah,
no.
It's where they fall in the calendar.
100%
is what we're talking about. So go to these games. You want to support the team. You want to get season tickets. You want to do everything that you can to support Marshall Athletics. We are not dogging Marshall Athletics. We're more than anything dogging kind of like the scheduling that the Sun Belt Conference as a whole has fallen into. Because besides getting to maybe throw out there, like someone said last year, that we could request to have November 14th be a home game or the week around that date. They can't accommodate every request, because what if somebody else said, well, we want that home game, and that just happens to be who you have to play. But as a whole, we feel like they're dropping the ball on some rivalry things and where they put some of these. But every single team was waiting until that March 12th or whenever date was that this dropped.
Yeah.
And the final thing I'll say before I turn it over to you is we don't have them on our schedule. It might not change, but there is still some litigation going on with La Tech. And if they drop and have to stay in Conference USA, money be damned. It doesn't matter what. If they have to stay in there, pretty much the entire out of conference schedule is probably going to change, because it doesn't affect us on here, but affects everyone else. And they're also going to have to get rid of divisions, most likely, because there's only going to be 13 teams. So all of a sudden, someone's going to be on a bye each and every week, and things are going to have to change. And this schedule might get blown up here in a couple of weeks.
It might.
Probably not. But just keep that in mind. We may have to have a second reaction.
Well, I mean, somebody's schedule is going to get blown up. Either the Conference USA schedule is going to get reworked, or the Sun Belt schedule is going to. Yeah. Somebody's going to get reworked, and that is a very interesting wrinkle to keep tabs on. And I don't know what that would mean right away. I don't know. I don't even want to speculate on that, because golly, man, who knows what could happen. Right. So we're only going off of this right here. But I'm with you. If I could go to every game, I would go to every game. Of course, I can set in stone, punch it. I'm going to the home opener for sure. I always schedule a week of my vacation to make sure I'm available for the home opener. That's going to happen. I would really love to be able to make it back for 75 week this year too. Really love to be able to do that. I don't know if logistically it would be a possibility, but man, if I could do it, I would really love to be able to bring the family back for 75 week and that whole thing, the whole weekend, not just the game, the whole weekend, everything. Go to every game that you can go to. You guys are so lucky if you're within a short drive to Joan C. Edwards Stadium and you're a Herd fan. Take it from me, a guy who would love to be able to go in those gates every Saturday and can't do it anymore. I miss it like crazy when football season comes around. They're going to be starting the push for season tickets here pretty soon. Renewals and all that kind of stuff is going to be going out. So there you go. Start your budget. If they're going to do I don't know. Russ probably knows. And this is something we'll get into later. But, we talk about it all the time. If they're doing the family pack again, get with your buddies and, get a family pack. And whatever the ticketing options are, figure out what works for you and make sure that you can be a part of it in some capacity, right? This is a team that, remember, guys, we're not that far away from doing position group breakdowns. We're going to get in and start familiarizing everybody with who came back, who was recruited, who we lost, all that stuff. Some big time contributors found their way back to Huntington, West Virginia to play for Tony Gibson, to play for Rod Smith, and all these guys. Again, there were some wholesale changes on the defensive side of the football that a lot of people were clamoring for. And when you clamor for those things and you get those things, you have to show the support. They gave you what you wanted. So make sure your ass is in a seat so that you can see those results play out on Saturdays or a Tuesday this year. So get ready, man. Spring game is also quickly approaching. It's like 3 weeks away, a little over 3 weeks away. So I'm jacked for that too. I mean, I'm ready.
Just real quick, saying it could be much worse. We're sitting here lamenting the fact that we have a Tuesday home game. But we go from 10:10 to 10:20 for that game to 10:31 for the next game. I tweeted this out 6 days ago, but when Inept Conference USA came out with their schedules, New Mexico State, their bye is the last week of the season.
Oh, that's helpful.
But they also have 3 games in 12 days.
Wow.
We have a 10-day break and an 11-day break. They have 3 games in 12 days.
That's horrible for player safety.
They're going to be. Can you imagine the injuries that are going to pile up? You know, and I mean, so what it is they go from they've got a Thursday game. 6 days later, they got a Wednesday game. 6 days later, they have a Tuesday game. Then 8 days after that, they have a Wednesday game, and then 6 days after that, they have a Tuesday game.
Oh my
So
gosh.
they have 5 games in 27 days.
And none are on a Saturday.
None. And those are all in a row. 5 games in 27
That's
days.
horrible.
And then the 28th is their first bye week.
Look, man, how do you expect that school to cater to their fan base whatsoever when you're doing that to them? That's absolutely no wonder Louisiana Tech is like, screw you guys, man. We're not playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday. No, that's Bush League, dude. That's horrible. I feel bad for New Mexico State and their fans for having to deal with some crap like that. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible. So, got anything else? Let me have it. Otherwise, let's look to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm going to say whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Joan, or whether you even see us on October the 20th for a Tuesday night game, I promise you, you will see me there. No matter where you see us, we'll be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you in 3 weeks for the spring game. Big tailgate. Later.